JKB back with another episode. Today on the show, I'm reviewing Nintendo Switch Sports. Thank you to Nintendo Canada for the review copy. Nintendo Switch Sports is the follow-up to Nintendo Wii Sports, which was a gigantic game for that system. It was the pack-in game that came with the Nintendo Wii, and I'm sure every single person that ever lived played that version of the game. So let's see if Nintendo can really live up to the Wii Sports name and deliver something on the Switch that's not necessarily using the same controls as you remember with the Wiimote. My first thoughts with the game was that it's quite simplistic. There's not too much to it. There's 6 different sports, which I'll go over quickly now. Volleyball, which is exactly what you would assume it would be. Now, I'll get into how these games control at the end of the review. But you also have badminton, bowling, soccer, chambrera, I think I'm saying that right, and tennis. Now, chambrera, I believe I'm saying that right, is the fencing game that is probably my favorite in this package next to badminton. So let me go through each of them, tell you what it's like to play them, how does it feel, I'll go over the game modes, it won't be a long review, and I'll say if I recommend it or not. Plus, you know, there's some news coming out kind of saying that there's additional games coming to this eventually. So that's kind of a plus, but let's get into volleyball first. Now, in the volleyball game, the Joy-Con motions you'll be doing to strike the ball are quite simple. Simply raise the controller from the ground to the sky to volley it into the air, or slam it down to the ground to perform a strike. This is very simplistic. You're not moving the character yourself. I don't feel like there's much more motion other than just up and down or over sort of pushing it towards the sky. That's going to volley it into the air and let your teammate slam it down with a spike. So, I mean, volleyball's quite simplistic. I mean, most of these games are, so it's not like you're going in here expecting to be able to control the characters like any other, you know, tennis game on the Nintendo Switch like Mario Tennis. It's not like that. It's just the motions. That's all this game is about. You're not really controlling the character, you're just controlling the motions of the character. So volleyball, it's not my favorite in here. It's decent, but let's move on to badminton, which is my favorite, second favorite, I should say, in the package here. It feels very intuitive, it's very quick. You're doing the same motions as the volleyball. Once you decide to see the Joy-Con as the actual badminton racket in your hand, the game becomes a little bit, better. You do have the ability to sort of swivel the controller as well, but it's not as detailed as the Wii remote was, so that's kind of a drawback. So it's not as, I don't feel as one-to-one as the Wii Motion Plus was with the Wii Sports. But in saying that, badminton's a lot of fun. You can hold the right trigger to sort of lob the ball in. It's called a drop shot. It's just going to drop it right after the net. So you can kind of drag your opponent player towards the net. And then you can slam it down on the back side of the court. And that's how you're going to win in this badminton game. It is my second favorite game. So yeah, it's pretty good. I really enjoyed that one, especially online. You have the ability to throw up like sort of a, obviously there's no real communication with the players you're playing against, but you have the ability to put this little icon on screen that shows your character either happy or sad, or you get the idea. The typical Nintendo online world is in this. Let's move on to the bowling. It is literally Wii bowling. It's not really changed. It feels just the same as holding the Wiimote. I'm still having a bit of a trouble figuring out how to sort of, put a spin on the ball. I did figure it out after a little while, but bowling is essentially exactly what you think it is. Now, tennis is another game that is identical to the badminton, so it's a lot of fun. It's the same tennis we know and love. There's nothing special here. They haven't done anything above and beyond, so can't really speak on that much. My favorite game in this whole package is the Canberra. I don't even know how to say it, but it is the most fun I have at the game because you're holding a sword. You have this ability to block, and it's sort of, if you're into Star Wars, it's kind of like you're holding some lightsabers. It's a lot of fun. You also have special attacks that you build up after you've done a certain amount of blocks, so there's a bit of a strategy involved in this. This is the most involving, other than Badminton, I would say, out of the games. And it's my favorite one in the whole package because it kind of feels badass knocking people off the platform into the water. So that's my number one in this. Last but not least, you have soccer, which is, yeah, it's using your leg. So you have to have the strap on your leg to be able to do this properly the way that they wanted you to do this. So it works, but I mean, you're going to be running around your living room with this thing attached to your leg and kicking, and it's a bit awkward at first. Once you get the hang of it, you kind of get the idea, and it's just the same as volleyball or the tennis or anything like that. It's not special. So that really is the assortment of games. Now it's wrapped up in this nice little package where you can play online, you can play local, or you can play with your friends online. When you play online, you have the ability to gain reward points, sort of presents, and when you hit 100 points, you get a new item for your character. Last but not least, I'll bring up the characters. You have the ability to look human or use your Mii from back in the Wii days. So that's interesting. I do like the design of the humans in this. It's pretty cool. It's pretty limited. You gotta unlock a lot of the items and figure that out over time. But at the end of the day, that really is the package here. The online does work. Had some matches in badminton and tennis and bowling, and I had no issues with that. However, sometimes you're going to be playing against the CPU, and it does tell you that, so I don't know what that's about, but I guess the idea is that if your opponent drops out or disappears from the match, you still have the ability to play a match, and they just replace it with a computer opponent. I guess that's the idea behind it. Now, it is sort of a budget title. In Canada, it's $59, so I guess that means it's $39 in the US. I'm just assuming. I did not double check that. I apologize, but it is $59.99 physical with the strap in Canada. At that price, you're basically looking at $10 per game. Is it worth that? I mean, it's really debatable. If you have a family and you're going to be playing 4 players and having a great time with your family, then this game actually probably is worth that. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but it's simplistic. You're going to get over it very quickly. It's going to go kind of quick. You're just going to play the games once and know what the game is, and that is it. So it's not like it's pushing the genre of the sports, like the Wii Sports and now the Nintendo Switch Sports. It's not pushing it anywhere. So that's slightly disappointing, but I still feel that there's a lot of fun to be had here once you really get over the quirks of using the Joy-Con opposed to the Wiimote Plus, which I feel was really one-to-one at the end of that life cycle. It felt great to do that. This is another bit of a sort of learning curve. So I'm going to give this game a solid 7 out of 10. It's better than just what you would expect, but it's not going to push it over the boundaries. You're not going to be like, oh my god, everyone needs to play this. It's not going to sell 34 million copies or whatever the last version did. It's just not going to get there. So that's my review on the game. I feel like it's fun. If you have a family, you're going to have a blast. If it's just you in a room, you're going to play it for 20 minutes and go, that was it, and that's about it. Play it online a little bit if you want to unlock some of the costumes. It's fun, but I mean, realistically, how good can you get at something before you're sort of sick of it in this? So yeah, that's my unscripted review and my sort of quick review of Nintendo Switch Sports. Thank you to Nintendo for sending over the review copy. Again, if you have a family, I highly recommend the game because there really isn't anything like it on the Switch. So I'll see you guys on the next episode of JKB.